An oral family history is like a memory of a mighty tree that once grew on the hill. While the tree lived, many saw it. But once the tree fell and succumbed to age, only those who saw it erect remembered it thereafter. And with time, only the children of those who saw the tree had any knowledge that a tree had even ever existed. This is such a story of a man's account of a historical event that will be lost to time, if not so told to the next generations. In the first half of the 20th century, the Industrial Revolution in the U.S. was still in full bloom, and the nation had an insatiable appetite for rubber to provide to the many industries, but most importantly, the booming automobile industry. 90% of the rubber imported to the U.S. came from rubber tree plantations in Southeast Asia. In the late 1930s, these sources of rubber became unreliable due to the expansion of the Japanese Empire and were finally completely unavailable after the attack of Pearl Harbor in 1941. To meet this supply chain crisis, the U.S. government instituted the Synthetic Rubber Program, with experimental plants constructed in 5 locations across the U.S., including Los Angeles. Jack Layman was born in 1920 in Lomita, California, a small town south of Los Angeles. He was both a good student and a good athlete. He played some college football, played college rugby, and in track and field he did the field events like doing shot put and throwing the discus. He had to eventually give up football due to his bad eyesight. Jack attended Menlo Junior College and got his bachelor's degree from Pomona College in chemistry. Jack, by the way, is the guy in the fedora with a shoulder pistol at a casino night frat party circa 1940. With World War II starting, Jack, like everybody else, was drafted. But due to his poor eyesight and his flat feet, he was given a 4F status. But Jack would go on to serve his nation with his keen mind as a chemist. He went to work first for Shell Oil in Bakersfield, California, and then moved back to Los Angeles, where he worked as a chemist and plant operator on the synthetic rubber plant constructed in Los Angeles. He worked the night shift and wore a firearm to protect himself from the periodic attempts by anarchists to disrupt production at the facility. Jack's contributions, however, were significant enough for his name to be listed on one of the patents for synthetic rubber. After World War II, Jack went back to college and obtained a bachelor's in chemical engineering from the University of Southern California. He then took a job as an engineer with Aerojet General, which was building new industrial facilities all over the U.S. and all over the world. It was in August of 1957 when Jack was given what was to be a 1-month assignment to assist with the engineering of a new synthetic rubber facility in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, whose post-war economy was booming. Now a little background as to the state of world affairs when Jack was in Brazil. The world at that time was broken into 2 major spheres of influence between the 2 major superpowers in what became known later as the Cold War. The United States was a land of prosperity after World War II. Jack Layman married the love of his life, Frida Lamb, in 1953, and had 2 daughters, Jackie and Debbie. They purchased a modest ranch home in Torrance, California, and lived their little part in the American dream. That American dream was what the U.S. projected to the rest of the world, a picture of prosperity and industrial innovation, a nation that provided post-war U.S. middle class and the world with new consumer items such as refrigerators, washing machines, television, and amazing automobiles on a mass scale never seen before. In January of 1957, the United States projected an image of peace through strength in Operation Powerflight by deploying a fleet of B52 bombers who circled the entire Earth without landing, thus showing our ability to deliver a hydrogen bomb anywhere on the planet. Hollywood even did a movie portraying this event. On October the 4th, 1957, the Soviet Union launched from what is now the country of Kazakhstan the first satellite into outer space orbit. The satellite named Sputnik was the size of a breadbox and emitted a periodic radio signal back to the Earth. The news of the satellite sent shockwaves throughout the world, and the USSR was suddenly seen as technologically superior to the Western world. The United States had its own rocket program in place, but hastily scheduled a launch to respond to the Sputnik. The launch of Vanguard 1A satellite on December 6, needless to say, was a total disaster.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Now back to Jack Layman and how this chain of events related to him. Jack's 1-month remote assignment in Rio had extended into 5 months. Jack and other members of the Aerojet General Engineering team stayed at the hotel on Copacabana Beach, which catered to an international businessman crowd. Every morning they went downstairs and had breakfast in the hotel restaurant. But the morning of December the 7th was different. There was a group of German businessmen in the hotel restaurant, all reading the morning paper about the Vanguard disaster. They greeted the Americans with condescending sarcasm. "You Americans, you tried to send up a satellite and you failed. We're so sorry for your country. Maybe someday you'll catch up with the Russians." It was humiliating not just because of the Vanguard issue, but also because we were only 12 years removed from World War II, and many of these Germans had no doubt fought with the Nazis. A couple of days later, Jack woke up in the morning to a giant rumbling noise and the literal shaking of his hotel room. He ran to his window to see what was going on, and there over Copacabana Beach was a group of B-52s flying. But these 52s were not just flying. They were doing Thunderbird and Blue Angel type maneuvers, flying on their side and doing barrel rolls. The B-52s did this for several minutes and then were refueled in midair and flew on. Jack later found out that the B-52s had flown over every Central and South American capital on that mission. The mission was very clear. The statement made by the U.S. was that Russia may have a little satellite in space, but the United States was in complete control of what was going on the planet Earth. It must be noted that the behavior of the German businessmen that morning at breakfast was much more conciliatory. Jack returned to the United States and after a while formed his own engineering and consulting company. His name appeared on several other United States patents.